Either of those. I haven't either. Have you, Maria?
About,
Heard from Commissioner?
no, well, she had that or change.
No,
No,
Oh,
yeah.
she's 5 minutes late. You said she might be 5 minutes late. She's at HHS.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Okay. Wow, to me. Time. Punctuality, and I think we have a forum, so I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. February 10th of the PCDC. Maria, will you call roll?
Chair Schwartz,
Present.
Vice Chair Evers,
President.
Commissioner Scott,
Present.
Commissioner Knapp. Commissioner Jacobs
Present.
and Commissioner Wingard.
And present.
And Commissioner Drysdale.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. Great, the next agenda item is approving the agenda for this evening. I'd like to go ahead and move to switch the order of the topics in the public workshop and have the presentation on 517 West Main first, and then the comp plan review second.
I move to approve the agenda as modified by the chair.
Second.
Thank you. I guess we vote on that. All in favor of the motion? Oh.
You
You
have the
that.
Oh, job, you didn't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go ahead, we're not doing any ordinances or public hearings this evening, so we'll go ahead and move to general business. Is it appropriate to ask for a motion for both minutes in the same approval of both minutes in the same motion? Me too.
You gotta do them one at a time. Sorry.
Oh, and Brandon.
Okay.
Oh, our attorney's here tonight.
Oh, thank you. Hello.
Good to mess around.
All right. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review the minutes. Is there a motion to approve September 23rd, 2024? It feels like many months ago.
So motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approving September? Unanimous. Thank you. And then just a couple weeks ago, January 27th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So motioned.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Did we miss anything? Okay, please, all in favor of approving the September or January minutes? January 27th, please say aye. Or switch your button. All right, unanimous. Thank you. Next agenda item is the resolution related to getting the town in compliance with the municipal code, in compliance with HB 241007, which is related to the occupancy limit. So there was a memo, cover letter, and a draft of the resolution.
And the attorney would like to walk you through that background.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chair. So my name is Brandon Dittman. For those who don't know me, I'm the town attorney. And I was asked to draft this resolution to help bring the Town Alliance Code in compliance to the piece of legislation that passed last year. That bill is HB 241007. And what that bill did is it eliminated the ability of local governments of all kinds, including the town, to impose occupancy restrictions based on the definition of a family, kind of regardless of how that is defined. And so what this code amendment does, it removes, family from the municipal code, starting with the definition section. So taking out reference of family and definitions and making cross references to where family still may exist throughout the code. And then over time, the idea is that as we amend other codes, we'll also remove the mention of the word family in those as well. And so we're basically going from, a family, whether by blood or just shared heritage or whatever it may be, to a group of individuals that act as a housing unit. And so that's, the basic idea behind, what we're primarily doing. In addition, we also implemented a new occupancy restriction that's explicitly based on health and safety standards. This was a recommendation that came out of DOLA as part of this legislation. And so that language is more or less a direct copy of what DOLA proposed as a way to properly administer occupancy limits going forward. One kind of last comment on this is that the language you see before you is a combination of language that was pulled from either the city of Boulder, who in addition to changing their definitions, did do the hard work of going through their entire code and removing the word family, which amounted to 100-some page ordinance. And then also from the city and county of Broomfield, which also, went through this exercise of removing family from their definitions, but had the clever idea of doing the cross-reference to avoid the need to immediately go after the entire code and removing, where a family housing may be, referenced elsewhere. And so that's where kind of the genesis of this ordinance came from, first from the examples in Broomfield and Boulder, and then second from DOLA in the recommended language on occupancy. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have regarding either the background or the ordinance itself. But otherwise, I'm just here to help you walk through this.
The question that I think you've already answered, but just to make sure I'm getting it. So in these references where it still is a detached dwelling may also be referred to as a one family detached. That's because it's referencing another section of the code.
Yeah,
So it
I
still
went.
needs to be better of the
Go
law,
ahead.
but yeah, it just needs to be that. I was just wondering because I saw family so many times, but that's exactly why, right?
That's
It's
exactly why. Originally, I had intended to do the Boulder approach, which is to take out family everywhere. But upon looking through the code, there was like 36 mentions of single family, multifamily, other types of family definitions that are in the existing code. And so rather go through the work of and creating a giant ordinance of doing that, and we just did the cross references as a kind of an immediate solution.
Thank you.
Any other questions, anything?
No.
Commissioner Drysdale.
Yes, should the town, put a notice, for example, in the e-blast or some way to describe what you just described? So there's at least several people in the community who have a general understanding of what's happening.
Yes, I think we would wait to do that before it became actually the law of Lyons. And I mentioned in the memo, we have not been enforcing occupancy based on families since this law went into effect on July 1st. And so nothing is really changing for the citizens of Lyons, as this has been the case since July. It just we're kind of codifying it in the code through this ordinance. But I think once this passes, assuming it does pass the Board of Trustees in second reading, I think it would be appropriate to put an e-blast that we have updated the code to do occupancy limits based on health and safety standards.
Any other questions or comments? All right. And thank you for, at the bottom of the memo, there's lovely language about how to do the motion. If anyone is so inclined,
Oh, sorry, nothing to add on. I'm used to doing that.
it's very helpful.
And once we have a motion on the floor in a second, I do have a couple minor kind of cleanup amendments I'd like to suggest as well. But go ahead with your motion in your second.
I move to approve PCDC resolution 2025-01, PCDC, a resolution of Planning and Community Development Commission of the Town of Lyons, recommending that the Town of Lyons Board of Trustees adopt an ordinance amending the Lyons Municipal Code to comply with HB 24-1007 and implementing occupancy limits based on health and safety codes.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All right. Is there some discussion? Were there a couple of cleanup items you wanted to mention?
Yeah, if there's no further discussion by the commission, I do have a couple amendments I'd like to suggest on a staff basis or just clean up. I have a couple little things. And so hearing none, I would like to kind of read those over. And I'll do them one at a time since they are, two separate things. So first, I would like to suggest an amendment to the definition of apartment. And this is how the new version of that would read. It says an apartment means a room or suite of rooms with cooking facilities available, which is occupied as a residence by a group of individuals living together as a single family unit and is rented. And is rented is the new part there. And then this includes any unit in buildings with 2 or more dwelling units rather than more than 2. And so just adding in rented and changing it from more than 2 to 2 or more. And the idea here, was talking through this is that, what distinguishes an apartment from other types of housing is not necessarily the number, so long as it is multiple. It's more so that it's rented rather than owned. And so that's why this change was made. And we were worried about, this was existing language in the code that wasn't being changed or modified, that it could create conflicts in some places.
Ask a question or ask a question later.
You can talk.
So would that apply to a room for rents in a home? Is that an apartment then?
It would only be a housing where there was more than one rented room. So it's the unit itself. It's not a room.
So if I wanted to rent out my home that I own and I no longer live there and I have an attached ADU, that would be 2 rentals.
Attached, or you mean say like a
The basement.
basement, yeah, a walkout, yeah, basement,
So it could be in a home or an apartment building.
But not a home, 3 bedrooms where 3 bedrooms are rented out to different people.
Yeah, so a couple of different clarifications here. One, I don't think it would apply to bedrooms. It's a dwelling unit, which would include the cooking facilities. And so room wouldn't qualify. I also don't think an ADU would qualify either because an accessory dwelling unit is a separately defined thing than a dwelling unit. And if you want to add additional clarification that an apartment does not include a home with an ADU, a rented home with an ADU, if you'd like.
Could it be a bedroom with a cooking surface, like cooking like a, what do you call
those
those?
little stovetop, those little,
Stovetop, yes, and
the hot
maybe bathroom.
or whatever they're called, yeah.
Just wondering.
Yeah. And I don't think a dwelling, a bedroom would ever qualify as a dwelling unit unless it was separate, which is essentially an ADU at that point. This is really for independent dwelling units being multiples of those.
I have one question. Does it matter on the language between lease and rent, or is rent kind of all encompassing? Are those different terms legally?
They're a lease is a document which secures the renting. And so it's a kind of a piece of leases. If you leased something that's indifferent, that's the same as rent in this context, but a lease itself is the document which secures the ability to rent.
Hey, Brandon, keep going.
I'd like to vote on this one.
You have to vote on this, yeah, we have to vote.
I think someone will need a motion in a second to adopt my amendment, and then 2 to second that, and then you can do a vote.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve? the
Brandon's new
amendment?
language.
Don't we want to hear both amendments so we can adopt them?
Limited time, because when we pass in the other may not.
All right, so I move to adopt the amended language for the definition of an apartment that Attorney Dittman just said, so it's elegant.
I'll second.
And Commissioner Drysdale. Any further discussion? All right, let's go to our funds. All in favor? This is unanimously. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next amendment I'd like to suggest, which is a little bit simpler, is to dwelling, multi-unit dwelling. This was the changes you'll see is really just kind of reflected a number issue, which was created when we added in the Broomfield compromise language and just wasn't caught. And so what I would suggest is the following. Dwelling multi-unit means a building consisting and occupied by two or more dwelling units, but not including motels or hotels, and containing two or more dwelling units. And then exist as it continues, a multiple unit dwelling unit may also be known as a multifamily dwelling unit, and multifamily dwelling units, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, condominiums, apartment buildings, or multiple dwelling unit arrangements. And so the conflict was created because the cross-referencing language refers to duplexes, which have obviously two dwelling units. Also, condos could potentially have two dwelling units. And so to make that all encompassing, we had to reduce it from 3 to 2.
Commissioner Drysdale.
Yes, Brandon, could you repeat the first sentence of that?
Yes, I can. So dwelling multi-unit means a building consisting of dwelling multi-unit means a building consisting of occupied by 3 or more dwelling units, but not including motels, hotels, and containing 2 or more dwelling units. So it should be 2 or more beginning, 2 or more at the end. I want to check. My notes are the same as what they should be. That doesn't sound right to me, but the idea is to change it from 2 to 3, and all the language would remain the same. So let me pull up my red line and make sure that's right.
Yeah, unless I have a version issue, which is entirely possible. There was just a couple differences in the attachment that was in the board packet.
Yeah, the only change was going from 2 to 3 in the numbers. And so actually, I think, let me read it one more time because I see what the issue was. When I pasted it into my notes, it didn't capture some of the strike throughs. So dwelling multi-unit means a building consisting of 2 or more dwelling units, but not including hotels or motels, and containing 2 or more dwelling units. I think you can actually strike that last bit. A multiple unit dwelling may also be known as a multifamily dwelling units, multiple family dwelling units, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, condominiums, apartment buildings, or similar multiple dwelling unit arrangements.
Thank you.
So just for clarification, that those units, as long as they are dwelling units, do not have to be occupied, right? They can be occupied or unoccupied at a given time.
Yeah, I changed it from occupied to consisting of.
Thank you.
The existing code said occupied, so.
And the rest of the redlining in the document is just carrying that all through.
Yeah, the rest of those are the only 2 changes that we had recommended. Everything else would remain the same as the red line that was provided.
To approve the definition of dwelling multi-unit as proposed by Attorney Devon.
Thank you, Commissioner Knapp. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the motion as presented? All right, we pass unanimously. Thank you for that.
So we have a motion and we have 2 amendments to the motion. We're still in discussion for the motion.
You can still
Further
discuss
motion
and
to
then you need
approve.
a final.
All right, can I ask you one more question? Attorney
Yeah.
Griffin, please?
Happy to.
There's the 3 paragraphs, dwelling multi, dwelling attached, and dwelling detached. The dwelling attached one references something called principal dwelling units, where the other two don't reference a principal dwelling unit. And I'm curious if there's a reason why that would matter on attached versus the other definitions.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously it matters for attached because there has to be a principal dwelling unit for it to be attached, right? As a secondary dwelling unit to the primary. The other types of dwellings don't necessarily have a primary, right? You could have a dwelling in an apartment, which there is no primary. And so that's why it's only mentioned in dwelling attached. And I would also say this is just language that exists in the current code as well.
Messy now,
Um,
just leave it messy.
yeah. Okay, any further discussion? Are we ready to entertain a motion to approve?
We already have, yeah. So we have, the
We have the
two
motions.
amendments have been approved.
Yes.
Okay. So the, vote on the original amendment would encompass all that. It's my understanding. Is that
That's
right?
correct. That's correct.
You vote on the whole
So we just go ahead.
resolution as amended.
We're ready to go ahead and all those in favor of approving this resolution as we've amended, please. All right, thank you. Unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you for helping
Thanks,
with the
Brandon.
process.
Bye.
Code or whatever. First time's the hardest time, Chair Schwartz.
The process for the buttons.
Yeah.
That side should be off while people are voting. So that.
Put it-
you-
It
So
doesn't.
you don't have somebody
Yeah.
saying, well, I'm gonna vote however that person votes. And they wait until that happens. And so that, and then as soon as everybody's voted,
Yeah.
then you turn it on and it all appears at the same time.
We were just hoping to.
Thanks for doing that, because I'd said to the mayor, after the meeting, we'll have to give her a lesson on how that.
The master switch.
Yeah, the master.
All right, where are we? We are on to agenda item 4.4. I then believe discussion and direction on the recommendations of the PCDC to the Board of Trustees on the rezoning of the Lions Valley Park lots. So-
Yes, thank you. At your October 14th workshop, you guys had a discussion on the different lots that were donated by the Keith Bell Estate, as well as the two Carter Court lots owned by the town. But because it was just at a workshop and you can't make decisions, we're bringing it before you tonight to formalize your motion and recommendation to the Board of Trustees on these lots. And the board has been inquiring about, when are we gonna get going on these zoning? So I wanted to make this a priority for you guys. So what would happen is I'd like to go through your different recommendations and make sure everyone still feels the same, because a workshop is not a final decision, and you may have talked to others or seen others and changed your mind about it. So tonight, we need to decide what you want to recommend as a recommending body back to the trustees. And then what will happen is at your next meeting, March 10th, there'll be a resolution and public hearing on it. And then at the March 17th meeting, it will go to the Board of Trustees. Okay, so that's the plan on this one. So I watched the workshop from that time. And it seemed like there was a consensus amongst most of you that on the lots that are currently zoned ag, I'll call them the L Hill lots, if you recall those. If you want me to put them up, I will, but they were in your packet as well. To rezone those ag lots to parks and open space. Have any of those changed? These are the three small lots. Well, one's not, so the L Hill is a large lot. and then two small little pieces that were kind of like wedged between there and the school or McConnell. And then the two Carter Court lots. So the two Carter Court lots are currently zoned R1. And there was a discussion about rezoning those to R3. And it seemed like there was a consensus there. Then there's the triangle lot. That is the one at the intersection of McConnell and McConnell. So novel, isn't it? McConnell and McConnell. Which is currently zoned business. And we only have two business lots in town, so this is an unusual zoning. But, and as I listened to your discussion, it seemed to me that there was, definitely, some different thoughts on how this could be best utilized. And so, I want to make sure you guys can have that discussion a little further tonight. And then we'll need a motion on how you want to propose this to move forward in the vote, and then I'll get it geared up in a resolution.
Did we decide that we wanted to refer that to the DOT to determine what to do with it? Was that?
No, you took an actual.
But yeah,
you
it was
took
like
a straw poll.
Yeah, it was like 4-3 or something. It was like 4-3 or
I don't
something.
think we were formally asked to give our opinion, we're trustees, but we were asked to gauge the temperature on what we thought about it at the time. So now we're being asked to formally give a recommendation.
Yeah,
Should we talk about what the board indicated?
sure, if you want to, go ahead.
So the board discussed the triangle lot. And, it wasn't unanimous, but, a majority indicated an interest in perhaps pursuing municipal zoning.
What, sorry?
Municipal.
Okay, municipal zoning.
Mhm.
But the board would like to have a recommendation of the PCDC.
Municipal zoning, like,
Means it can be a public facility.
oh, so like, so if any sort of that, okay.
It could be, I can pull that up real quick if you want me to, what's in the code covered under municipal.
Okay.
But it basically allows for a variety of uses owned by the public sector.
Okay.
Anything from a shed to hold kayaks,
Mhm.
you know, in the winter months or summer both, to, could actually be a lift station if it was needed there. It can be a variety of things, but basically, owned and operated for public sector purposes, but I will pull up that list.
I don't think we discussed that as an option.
I don't, that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up,
Yeah.
because I don't remember it being presented
Mhm.
as an option.
And some of the municipal uses are like a cemetery or.
Did you get, do you have it up?
Public set, yeah.
I can read it, if you'd like.
Oh, great, that's great. I was,
So there's 11 possible principal uses. One of them is accessory building, which is not very useful, but cemetery, electric power facility, emergency alert system, fire suppression facility, municipal administrative offices, municipal service facility, public sanitary facility, recreational facility, recycling collection facility, water or wastewater facility. Prohibited uses would be anything that cause danger to public welfare or any residential use. Except for purposes of providing for a caretaker or resident manager. There's some conditional stuff, arts and culture, nonprofit, telecom, and that is all of the list of uses.
Can we ask how, like, more context of how the DOT determined that would be a nice use?
You know, you could. But I hesitate only because I don't want that to sway your discussion or opinions. So I could, you're always welcome to go and watch the recording of the meeting after this meeting.
Okay. And I think I recall it was kind of like residential or parks and open space. Or commercial.
I
that was
I
the
guess,
majority.
I mean, it felt,
I was someone, complete, okay, so I'll put my opinion in. I know that, so I was kind of against affordable housing there because I didn't like the idea of it being right next to the water and being like, or at least I think people were thinking, since it's a small lot, it'd have to be something that'd be like, is it a multiplex? I don't think you know, like, more than one unit, you know, like, I actually was, I thought, like a parking lot, I don't mean like a gravel parking lot, but actually, because is that a municipal use?
It would.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with that, because I know coming down McConnell, live going through down the neighborhood, because I live in that neighborhood, you see all the people who park on both sides of the McConnell who want access to the ponds there, but now that's all the yellow curb line to not, no, there's no place to park. And yet, so that just seems like a reason, I understand that there, you know, there are the residents over there, and there's also a fire hydrant there that might need to be moved, I might add, or shifted around, something like that, but to me, that was where I see the need, because I see people now parking in our neighborhood who don't have a place to park who want to use the pond, so.
Would it be fair? It sounds like municipal use has
Mhm.
more options than just parks and open space would
Yes.
have.
But recreational facility is included under municipal as a permitted use.
So municipal versus residential might be more of the conversation than parks and open space.
It might be, but it could also be more intense depending on what that use was.
Mhm.
I recall from our workshop that there was some NIMBYism about, it was very contentious, this one triangle where residents didn't want, you know, a house there, but I also think if there's parking there, then we're inviting people from all over to come
Yeah,
park at
but-
Lions and hang out. There is that too, so there's NIMBY.
Let's see. Okay, so that's where I come from, you know, being the planner, okay, so you know, like, you know, people don't want people to come, but yet if you wanna have a driving town, you want facilities that accommodate them, so I mean, you know, it's okay as long as it's not next to me, you know, that's, you know, maybe, yeah. And so, you know, I brought up I wish I brought in my little transportation planner thing that I used to hang in my cubicle that had all the little acronym, and so not my backyard, not my front yard, banana, all that kind of stuff that, yeah. Yeah.
Just asking this
Yeah.
question, but is it possible that we make a recommendation on all of them except the triangle lot?
Yeah, can we do that? Can we at least?
I think they would I think they would really like to know what you guys
Yeah.
think. And there's not a right or wrong, it's just really you represent the community and different neighborhoods of the community. And I think it's important for them to know, even if it's a split vote, that's fine. But looking at that municipal, I think the other big difference is the size of the setbacks. If you recall on residential, it's like a 25-foot in the front and it makes a pretty small footprint. Municipal is only 10, or 20 foot for front and only 10 side and rear. And conditional uses also include arts and cultural facilities, nonprofit, and telecommunications.
Can I ask that?
So two questions. One is this, it's really a comment. Historically, when these things are put to the public, someone picks up on what's the one thing on that list that they absolutely object to. And that's what the town is planning to put there. We know it. So then the question would be, can you further limit the
Uses.
purposes, the ones that are automatic versus the ones that require review?
I think that might take changing the code.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, and
Well, I was thinking unless it's not municipal and it's with a private party, you could have a development agreement specifying that it cannot, be these things, but
Yeah.
as municipal, it's almost always gonna have a public hearing of sorts.
Right,
yeah.
I think that's important to remember.
So if we look at right. Good change that.
Well, just the next level of the question is, if you did a development agreement, that will come after the rezoning. And so it at the point of voting on the rezoning, any of those,
Or permitted.
yeah. any of the allowed
Right,
uses could occur, could be proposed at least.
could be proposed, and then there would be a public hearing, and the board of trustees would still be in a position to approve or deny that application, correct?
If there's a development.
Yeah, if it's a private party.
The
Commissioner Adams?
comp plan suggests, at least on our land use map, that future use would be parks and open space. It's colored green.
Okay.
So unless we have like really strong opinions, we could just default to our role here, basically being stewards of the comp plan, to suggest that that be the default based on what the land use map says. I think kind of be my recommendation to us as peers, but you know, we could obviously hash it out and make it anything we want.
Do you have a question about R3? I'm just wondering, do we decide based on setbacks and everything, how many units we could potentially fit in that triangle? What was it, like 3?
Yeah. It's actually, I think planner Bowen had taken a look at it, and I think he felt you could have 2 units with 3 each.
Okay.
Is the highest use you could put there.
So 6
density.
units, 6
But like,
condo.
like 2 big houses, kind of that match the neighborhood, but they have 3 units.
So like 6 units, not families, but yeah.
Units. They might be 1-bedroom units.
But they could look like a house.
But they look like
But the house that would fit in, but be designed,
Yeah.
or designed to, yeah, really
Yeah.
mitigate them, like you're building like just an apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it could be 2 if you go R2, it could be 2 in each. You could limit it at that instead of 3 in each. It's,
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. That's really helpful. Any more questions? I do wonder about making a choice to rezone to residential without a traffic study or something like that. Just-
well, this will still go through a public hearing with the Board of Trustees level. It's just your recommendation on use. And I think, you know, Commissioner Evers has a solid point there of what the land use says. However, we also know, you know, the different housing goals that were in effect, and parks and open spaces, as Commissioner Nath said, could actually draw more people to the neighborhood.
I recall last time we did this, we didn't have an even number, so we weren't split, but we were weighted 1 vote towards R3 versus parks and open space. And I don't see any reason why a recommendation back to the Board of Trustees couldn't be parks and open space or R3. Like, we don't have to choose one. We could say it could be either one of these based on what the commission thinks.
Well, I need to write a resolution,
Mhm.
so we could, I mean, that can be identified if need be. Or it
someone
probably
wants to
will be when
switch.
you vote on this, it's gonna be whatever you vote on.
Sorry, could you say that again?
And then,
If you take a vote, it's going to, if there's a majority, that will be what will be the
But
resolution.
this isn't the resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was going to be a resolution. It's a motion, but I'm bringing forward a resolution next time.
Okay, so, but you're taking this motion, this informative motion, I guess, or whatever you want to call it, to the BOT. So we can say whatever we want. We can say we don't think it should be zoned anything in particular, or we could.
No, it's coming back to you at your next meeting as a resolution and public hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
How are we doing this today?
To give me direction on what to put in the resolution.
tell me what you need to write now.
And because you technically, whatever you talked about at a workshop wasn't in a public.
Well, okay.
Commissioner Scott, then Commissioner Jacobson, then.
So I agree with Neil that Commissioner Evers, thank you. You know, we kind of were, you know, it was mostly affordable housing or parks and open space, but I didn't even consider the municipal part. I mean, let's say like what I was saying, like a gravel parking lot and not to get go. Now would that would come under who would have to maintain it? I mean, it's whoever's owning it. I have it right now. Oh, it is owned by the town of Lyons. So, okay, so I'm looking at it right now on the screen. So, okay, so the town of Lyons, so the already owned by the town, so always been under their whatever.
Yeah, I don't think that changes.
Yeah, exactly, okay.
I just want to reiterate, the position I took at the workshop, and I still feel pretty strongly about it. I think R3, and actually the information about it being parked and open space on there is interesting, and I still think we have more goals to try to put affordable housing in town, and not something huge, but it's a couple of units that are the size of houses. I go by that place every day, and ever since that conversation, I've looked at it. And I've been like, it's not really a park, it's a big flat area up above everything, it's not. And it's a big flat area right above everything, even with all the other houses there, and so consistent with everything that's already there. That if, as a town, I love parks and open space, believe me. I go to all 3 parks every day with my dog. I don't think we need a park there. And I think we need affordable housing, and I think we need to live up to, well, many people have said over the time I've been involved in this, that infill is the answer and not expanding outward. It's a pretty nice spot to put a couple of nice units for some families to be able to have a nice quality of life in this town, which I think was what I value and what I think is important, so.
And I wish I had watched the DOT discussion to see how discussion related to this parcel to the wildfire mitigation goals and infrastructure goals and economic development goals that are a priority this year for the DOT. I don't know.
How would one, move forward here? Because am I
Yes, each
asking
person.
each person for their preference? Okay.
You want to culture?
Yeah, I don't wanna butt in if but.
No, I'm asking. for
Yeah,
guidance.
so consider this sort of like a straw poll and ask
Okay.
each commission member what they would like to see it, the zoning recommendation be. And then if there is a majority for one of those, then that would be the direction to staff to take back to create a resolution to that effect. And then at your next meeting, you'll have that resolution in public hearing. So the resolution will be posted in the packet and you'll have a public hearing, and you and I can chit chat about that beforehand if
Yeah.
you want. And then people will come and testify
Yeah.
as to the content of the resolution that you can then pass or modify
Yeah.
if you like, or not pass.
Right.
And that's the official recommendation to the board.
So it's not tonight.
Wouldn't it be typical to have a staff recommendation on what staff would want this to be?
Typically, but the Board of Trustees explicitly wanted to hear from the planning commission.
Got it.
Staff have already made the recommendations.
Well, okay.
Was that what we had the last time?
Mhm.
Yeah.
When you had your-
Yeah,
Like no one needs to say R3, put it on paper.
So the options are, parks and open space, R3 or municipal, is that?
No, it's.
Or
could be
any-
R-
Or any-
Could be R1 if you just want one house
Oh,
there,
sure,
it could be
sure, right.
business, it could
Could be
stay like
ag.
it
Stay
is.
business, okay,
Yeah.
It could be any of the zones that are appropriate, but not a spot.
okay,
The spot zone is there, so if it stays, it stays, but
sure.
that would not like, you don't wanna create something totally unique there.
Okay. Commissioner Scott?
the reason I keep raising my hand, but R3, if R3 is on there, like, so, sounds like, Planner Brown, he sounds like it was like, thought they could fit 6 units or, up to 2 6 units and like basically 2 houses or something, like is there enough parking? Would that be developed on site to be?
He actually had renditions for you.
Oh, that's right, okay, and there was enough, because that's just it, there, because I mean, you live in the neighborhood too, I mean, there's, the yellow line is on both sides of the street, and parking is not supposed to be allowed on McConnell Bridge at all, and, so.
And again, this is just the zoning, not the site plan.
That doesn't,
And actually an R3 allows for a unit up to 3, not
Right.
2, 3 units.
yeah,
That would be even a PUD or subdivision or something, so. Up to 3 units is what would.
3 units
is
in
R3.
one,
That's just what R3 means, is up to.
Yeah.
Up to 3 living units
in one structure.
What was
on
the
one
2 by
lot.
3?
On one.
Excuse me?
What was the 2 by 3 that came up earlier? 2 buildings, so 3 each.
That was the site plan that.
Oh,
Right,
Andrew
he just did how,
presented for.
because people had
Illustrative
said it was,
reason.
felt so small.
Mhm.
And it really was large.
Show the most dense possibility. but an R3 zone. All right, is there any more discussion? Are we ready to go around?
I think we talked about this last time, but just to double check, there's no floodplain across this property.
I was wondering about that too,
No.
yeah. Actually, we can, is that in the,
No, there, well, it does, the 100-year floodplain goes up, a little over the path there,
Mhm.
the south, what direction is that right there? South? West side
here it is, I have the map up.
of, over the path that's there.
Okay.
But a 100, can still have a structure as long as it's elevated to the 2 feet above elevation.
Here it is, yeah.
Okay, thank you for answering
Have fun.
Okay. Commissioner Knapp, would you like to begin?
Well, I would love to know what the BOT envisions for municipal use, but absent that, R3.
Commissioner Evers,
that. R3.
Commissioner Schwartz, R3.
R3.
All right,
I'm well municipal.
okay. Thank you. Thank you for the discussion. Thank you for the thoughtfulness.
I'll draft it up and, bring it back next time along with the public hearing.
Would like to add a comment to, the preference. I think this would be another opportunity to educate the population about the value of R3, both in terms of, the number of housing units and what value that brings to the town. And opportunities to sort of, minimize the view that is going to be, a negative in terms of, who will be there, how, and, what is it people are afraid of and why having it be zoned R3 is a better option.
I think that's a great thread we can bring into the plan review as we, see all those goals and the alignment and the overlap of so many of the different areas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready do we have a staff report?
Yeah, I have a very short staff report
Okay.
because it feels like it was just 2 weeks ago, right?
Guy.
Our applicants for planner have really dwindled way down. So I've only had a couple the last 2 weeks and neither was a good candidate for our situation. So I have talked to a couple other folks and they gave me some ideas on how to update and refresh our ad. And I've had a couple trustees. We posted it as a hiring range, though there's actually a whole salary range. But we posted the hiring range based on what was in the budget this year. So I do have a little wiggle room there. Maybe that's what scared some people off. It felt too low. Maybe they're seeing it as the salary range when it really says hiring. So I'm gonna just make a couple little adjustments and get that back out there. And I did find one more spot, that's regional, or it's statewide, but another spot that, I'm gonna also post it. So hopefully by the time we meet in 2 weeks, we'll have some.
Curious, this might be a ridiculous suggestion, but, and I know we're probably advertising fairly locally in the state, but Colorado is a pretty attractive place right now for people in other states.
Yeah.
So if there's a way to advertise into
Yeah.
states where people might want to leave and move here, that might expand.
Yeah, it would. It's unfortunate though, at this level, we don't have like a moving budget to help people and we don't have, we're just so small, we don't have some of the things that people kind of expect.
We need a highly motivated.
And then they look online and they fall in love and they say, yeah, I want to go there. And then they start looking and go, whoa, I can't live with that. But we may have to go broader. So we usually have started nationwide. And what we have found is we get a lot of people from, it's kind of interesting, certain states that really are attracted to Colorado. And then by the time they do research and expenses, they're like, I can't afford to do this, but you never know someone's
Never know.
situation, so. We will be expanding it, but Erin and I and Cassidy are here to carry out the job in the meantime.
Thank you.
That's all I have right now.
Anything else?
I talked this morning about something. Nope, I think that's all for now until we get to our comp plan goals.
So summary of action items.
The only would be drafting the resolution.
And Maria, at the beginning of the meeting, we talked about the action items from the last meeting. I think I haven't gotten the chair email.
Oh, you didn't.
Greystone was confirming that with
Okay.
Dolores today, so maybe
Oh.
by tomorrow.
Okay,
And
thank you
we
for
still need to
letting
get,
us know that.
Commissioner Jacobson, Wingard's email addresses too.
Yeah, those were all included.
Okay, great.
Is there an action item related to the presentation by Attorney Dittman? In terms of updating the code?
Yeah, he'll update
Yeah,
that resolution based and then go forward to the board. Yeah.
Okay. And then we talked about having the wildfire task force present to the PCPC. Maybe we can put that into a workshop or something. Sure. The next quarter or something like that. Okay.
They're gonna be meeting with the board too. Maybe we do it together.
Maybe, and then,
That's our great meeting.
the county is, having a wildfire, town hall on Thursday, the 20th. Here at Town Hall in the evening. So make sure to, tell your friends and come with people.
The wildfire task force,
No, Boulder County.
Commissioners,
okay,
the commissioners are just listening to people about wildfire
that's awesome,
concerns.
February 20th.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I know.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I think we'll entertain a motion to adjourn the formal meeting of this evening.
So
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right. All in favor of adjourning?
no, look at you.
And we'll go ahead and start the public workshop. Let's go ahead and start with the presentation of 517 West Main.
Thank God it's turned informal. Nervous.
That makes me nervous.
I've been coughing on itchy eyes. I think I'm allergic to the room.
Wouldn't blame you, but I'm still gonna move away.
I've met many of you. I haven't met some of you. I'm Mike Koenig. I'm the founder of Studio Shed, Studio Home. It's a panelized manufacturer out of Louisville.
That was great.
And as well as the Dutch Mountain Company Affordable Development. And I have my partner here, one of my partners, Melissa. Another partner, John, is just listening in. He's got small children, so we don't want to hear. Well, he loves children. And I think as some of you know, we've been working to bring the right type of housing to Lyons, exploring it for well over a year now. Specifically today, what we are proposing is, thank you, a conceptual idea for Chris's property, which we've been talking about for quite a while, and actually Andrew helped us with, at least on a conceptual level, some of the things you're seeing. It was mostly my team at Studio Home and Melissa. And by the way, if you ever want to come out and have a factory tour, it's great. You can't drive the forklifts, you have to be certified, but we'll see. But we're right in the tech center in Louisville. We've been operating since 2008 and we've completed over 6,200 projects now in all 50 states. On the direct to consumer side, we're mostly focused on ADUs. We're part of the IHIP program with the state in terms of expediting or trying to get more ADUs going. A couple of years ago, we launched a multifamily division where, think of it as Legos. So it's like, what size do you need? What is the programming? It doesn't really matter because everything's just one piece flow. And what we found is, through our, many meetings with all sorts of municipalities, is that this methodology of building is, well, at the end of the day, it's affordable. And I wouldn't say it's as competitive as, say, somebody like D.R. Horton, but, for the next level down, we're certainly right in there with a very high quality product. So Chris, 517 Main, we were talking about some ideas for there, and I'll just kind of pass it over to Chris before we kick it off into what we're exploring.
Yeah, sure. So Riverbend, I mean, everyone knows Riverbend and Wecasa. So 517 is a part of what is Lions Properties LLC. So if you were to stand at the Wecasa property, it's sort of the distant sort of northern property. So we've had that now for 18 months, and it's an area, the one particular portion we're looking at is an area we don't even use. It's a house, it needs a lot of maintenance, actually it needs to be torn down. Looks fantastic on the outside, but it needs a lot of work. In terms of maintaining the property, we've got so much to do on the other businesses. I was just considering on subdividing 517, which is close to, it's over 3 acres. And still would like to retain, there's a shed that we use for laundry, for storage. It's very useful for us. So I don't want to lose that as an asset, but there's a portion I was looking at subdividing. I spoke to some surveyors, and I was looking at subdividing into one and even selling that house off if someone had the appetite to redo it. I mean, it's a beautiful property with the driveway and the trees. Also as a minor subdivision, we could split it into 3. I could retain the front and sell the other 2 off. But then it's just a chance meeting. Andrew introduced Mike and I, and thought that actually, even being the 3rd owner of Riverbend, it's interesting to see the sort of a hangover from the lost houses on that property. And you hear it from my auntie lived there, or I used to live there. I mean, there's a guy renting 517 right now, just with a guy who needs subletting, and he lived at Riverbend when the flood happened. And it's interesting that I'd say at least once a month I hear of someone who was displaced from the flood. So in looking at options, I said looking at subdividing it into into 2 or 3. I spoke to a surveyor. I guess based on that 7,000 square foot minimum lot, you could probably squeeze in 5 to 6 units. But I'd like to go down the path, and I don't want it to be a long process. I don't want it to take a year, but I'd seriously like you to consider what's being proposed by Studio Homes and trying to get 25 units plus on that property. And it doesn't detract from what we're doing. I did mean to bring some notes, but looking at the comprehensive plan this morning, you look at obviously affordable or attainable homes, but Commissioner Jacobs touched on something that was infill. So this is already in the town of Lyons. It's zoned R2. The front of the property, I'm not sure why it's zoned commercial. It's just a tiny piece, but the main thing we're looking at is zoned R2. So it would be a fill-in project. So my intention is to sell it. I do not want to go through a 6-month process. So I hope I see an appetite in doing something special there. And unfortunately, otherwise, I'll just look at splitting into 2 or 3 and heading down that path. But as I said, I've lived in town for 20 years, and I see the need, the increasing need for housing. And it's sort of, even as I said, that history of Riverbend's interesting. So it'd be nice to just flip over to the adjacent property and achieve something there.
If you two don't mind, because there's not a map, I'm gonna
Yeah,
but Melissa is host, so I'm
Oh, I
interested in what's here.
I can unshare if that helps.
Do you have a map? No, it's okay, I'll just show them quick.
I love this view too. I can't picture it.
Oh, no, well, it's behind, it's hidden behind.
Still.
It's you split it into what we're looking at, it's about
So here's
1.5.
the parcel lined up. This is a parcel right here. You know, I'll bring it to all of you.
Can we look at the Boulder County?
This is.
Yeah.
Volunteers park.
Yeah, so you have it, you know where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
the
All
volunteers
familiar.
park During,
So this is the
Events
tiny
center.
homes,
Yep.
the event center, and then they use this as,
So we're over.
it's this section.
Right about.
Subdivided. He wants to keep this.
Satellite. Okay, something going.
It's a long, squeeze-like thing.
And the proposals for townhomes for rent.
So it should be,
So you're gonna get into that, right?
we're gonna get into that. I think
We just wanna make sure you kind of understand where this is at.
I think it's somewhat of an interesting and unique location just because it's protected by the ridge and all the trees along 36, so kind of a nice, beautiful little community nestled right in there. Yeah, so Melissa, I don't know if you want to talk too quickly about maybe the programming and Prop 123 and all everything you all kind of already know, but.
Yeah, well, I will share the next slide that and I know you all have the printouts, but just really highlighting what our mission is with the Dutch Mountain Company. Delivering really this innovative solution to housing in that relationship with Studio Home, where Mike will get into this a little later, but really kind of finding that secret sauce of being able to speed up execution and really being able to execute in tough locations, with slope and topography, where a lot of traditional construction gets a lot more expensive and it takes a lot longer. So what we're trying to do is provide that sustainable, affordable homes for the residents of Lyons, and hopefully become a leader in helping to solve this national housing crisis. So that's our little spiel. But as Mike had said, and Chris explained, this first kind of plan here is showing the site that would be subdivided, just so you've got a little bit more of a visual. And as we started talking about this and really digging into the goals that the comp plan has, one of the guiding principles is to manage growth and nurture the small town character in Lyons. And, the housing development that we're showing and proposing here provides that incremental diversification that is super important to the town and the residents, and giving additional options for housing for residents. These new homes would be available for the essential workers, as we're all talking, and we were talking earlier about that. And all of those residents are vital to, expanding the community and serving the people who are here currently. And while this incremental increase in housing stock is important, as Chris mentioned, adding these homes will also help bring back those homes that were lost in the flood. As we're looking here now, the site we're showing can accommodate up to the 27 units, and with a mix of AMI, and I know there was a comment earlier about, is this for rent or for sale? We haven't made a determination yet, but Mike can talk a little bit about what the mix looks like. We've got 3 different options that you'll see in your packet. And within those options, we have a mix of 1 and 2 beds. and some 2-story and 3-story. So you want to fill them in
Yeah.
on that, Mike?
Melissa, I think it's one thing to think about is, like what is the town, what do we think is best for the town? What do you think is best for the town? Or is it 3-bed, 2-bed, 2-bed, one, you know, it can be a mix. So however we want to configure the proverbial Lego set, we can do that. There's not, I mean, it doesn't really matter. And then in terms of for sale or for rent, we'd love to hear what we think is the best, or what you think is the best option for that. Yes, Melissa talked about speed, execution, simplicity. The only thing we don't do is civil engineering, but we have great civil engineering. So we handle all the architecture and engineering. To put this in perspective, we just quoted we'll put together a proposal for Silt. And the total architecture and engineering was, I think it was around 30K for 20 units. The next one out there was about 300K because they do it as a percent of total hard cost. But we have this advanced, we're operating in Revit and a couple other specific building information management software systems that not only speak to our production, but also field assembly, architecture, engineering, etc. So again, this was just, you can rearrange the buildings. The team did do the study on the parking and everything. And I think the max is that around that 27 units. There's some options for 24. I think under, I don't know, 20 or I don't know what the exact number is. It starts to get tough. But it's already, you know, when we're looking at these numbers and having just been to the housing conference in one of the housing conferences, both Keystone and the one in Northern Colorado, the trick here is, I'm sure you all know, but when you look at the graph of impact fees by municipality, you've got Castle Rock is way up here and Golden is way down here. Lyons, I think, is right under Castle Rock. So when we were looking at this from a financial feasibility standpoint, that's a challenge. And it is certainly why we are seeing like kind of the only thing that really works in this town at market rate is large single family homes. You know that, I don't need to go into that. So I don't know. I mean, when you look at one of the properties here in town that's for rent and has something like 70 person wait list, I think, for rental, or maybe it's not quite that high.
How many people wanted 1 bedrooms for Summit?
At one point, no, it wasn't Summit, it was, Summit and then.
It was 70.
Like, to be willing.
Yeah,
30 something.
Yeah, I mean, the
71.
demand for 1 bedrooms is.
Yeah, we're seeing that all over the state, that the 2-bedroom, even the 3 bedrooms, but I think that the key is, it's that, well, what's the rent or what's the for sale price? I mean, anymore, if you buy a $550,000 property with a 20% down, your mortgage is, I don't know, $4,200. So, you know, not speaking for Chris, but I will. They will sell the property. It's an attractive property, and we would love to see multifamily there. But you could see what could happen if it is just 3 or 4, 5 lots. It will be, like, I just looked on Zillow today to see what's for sale, and nobody I know can live here or afford a house. So we think it's a good option, but
Yeah, I mean, even going through the process of building the event center right now is, I mean, it is. I don't think it'll be long, like I look at even where I live, they're so undervalued for what it would cost to build our homes. And it won't be long until most houses in this town will be 2 million, because you actually can't produce those houses what they're selling for now. And
Yeah.
I'm shocked that our houses are still, which sounds insane, are still that low. Because you cannot produce a house, a 3,500 square foot house with quality for under $400 a square foot.
Yeah,
And that's the structure itself, without landscape, without water, without the land. And it's like these opportunities are rare. But it's interesting. I mean, as I said, going through this build on Riverbend is, I just add a 0 to everything as I go.
yeah, it's true. So, and on that note, there are two things I want to mention. So on the very last page, architectural styling, we can tailor it to what you want. The mining vernacular with rusted, metal siding accents. On the right is another project we're working on in another mountain town. So it's styling can kind of be whatever we want it to be. Number one, number two, 96% of our material spend is all one step. So we buy direct from manufacturer, which helps keep the cost down. Marvin Windows and Doors, James Hardy Siding, John's Mansville Insulation, et cetera. And I was actually, I guess, somewhat pleasantly surprised that even some of the larger builders, and I know some very large volumetric company, the ones that get craned in, that it's 2 or 3 step distribution. So that was interesting. So, our proposal is to work closely with the town to make sure that not only is the programming right, the price, but also the styling.
Sorry, did you say that you're still not sure if it would be affordable mix or market? Like, I can't remember what you said. I'm so sorry.
We haven't gone we've gone somewhat detailed into the financials, but I think it just all depends on the impact fees and what's the need of I think it would be like, hey, this is what we need. But some other projects we've been going, it's a mix of AMIs from like 60 to 120, even 150% AMI. So it could be a mix, it can be all one. It just depends on what the town wants.
And to the point that Mike had mentioned, the impact fees, we were super thankful to see that the town had included a subsidy of the local fees as part of the Prop 123 qualifying strategies. So we'd be interested to just hear more about that. Really, that is the one thing that the town could help control. And, it does come down to, does this financially make sense? So that's just one of the assumptions that we really just would like more feedback on as we navigate this a bit further.
Evers?
I was just gonna kind of maybe double check with you guys where you are in your process. It sounds like you don't necessarily have a pro forma based on a development plan, so you're kind of just gauging the town's temperature on the willingness we would have of working with you first before you go take a step further.
Yeah, great question. We do have a pro forma. But we'd like to understand, is it for rent? Is it for sale? What kind of AMI mix are we talking about? And that's something that we can update and as we go forward.
So I just want to remind everyone, tonight was just an overview of what they have in mind to get some basic feedback. There are no decisions because this will come back to you as probably a subdivision and rezoning. So
My
excuse me?
concern with doing, excuse me, Victoria,
Yeah.
is doing the subdivision and choosing between the 2 and the 3. Is if I go to 3, then I'm putting a line straight through the middle,
Mhm.
and that just complicates with setbacks and things like that. So I'm trying to get a feel for what town wants and what direction I need to go, because we're gonna have to do a subdivision. And then do this, or do we just try to get through this process and know what I do with the property? Because then we're gonna have to subdivide it again to eliminate the property line, but the one thing that's, I think, changed since we began talking and is the use of Macintosh shares for attainable housing versus CBT shares, which is great. So I think that was done by Longmont originally, and now I think we're allowed to do that in line. So we moved from $55,000 to $70,000 for CBT shares to 11 to 18,000. So it changed the equation a lot, which is it's a good starting point for what Mike is.
That
Mike
actually
mentioned.
is gonna come in front of the board, at their next meeting.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, per unit, I mean,
Attainable.
saving you
attainable
50,000
versus
plus already,
affordable.
which is,
Yeah.
is a great start. So.
Commissioner Drysdale?
So it strikes me the calculus is fairly complex. Because access to capital right now that's what's preventing other things from happening. And so, that becomes one of the sort of, fixed until the Fed does something, issues. Then there's the demand side, which probably is going to be fairly strong, but the least feedback I've heard, and others may have heard it too, that there's a lack of 2-bedroom rental facilities in town now. There would be some desire for people not living there for there to be as much ownership as possible. So that's, you know, the calculus starts to get fairly complex. You know, is there a sort of an optimizing point where you have the right sort of mix of 1 and 2 bedroom for sale and for rent? And when can you get started in terms of access to capital? And one of the things that will influence that is, are there grants and other funds available to assist with access to capital? Is that fair description of the situation?
Yeah, that's the big question right now in housing, all of that. So, nothing we can do about interest rates except control the things we can control. From the factory to the horizontal work, et cetera, to keep the construction costs as low as possible. One of our partners who's not on the call today has 36 years of real estate investment experience, capital raising. That's his role at the Dutch Mountain Company. He was the former CEO of a company called, and I always get this wrong, Melissa, is it Centerspace or it's Centerspace?
Centerspace, yes.
Publicly traded. It was or it is a owner operator of apartments. So it's the capital raising is not an issue for us. Simply put, like we're looking at many opportunities all over the state and in some other markets. The third was the calculus. That's somewhat of an easy update to the pro forma, but we need to hear from the town what it is. And I couldn't agree with you more that the 2-bed, 1.5 bath, or 2-bed, 2-bath I mean, you look up in Fraser and there's, we were just looking at some comps trailing 12-month sales. There's like nothing. So I think that is a, that in a 1-bedroom, maybe a 3-bedroom, or maybe 2-bed with a den or something. I'm not sure, but I think families in Colorado living in condos is, you know, when you got little kids, that's tough. I know, I've got 3.
I think we could ask you so many questions. I have a laundry list in my head, but I assume you all have had your pre-app or pre-app meeting or.
You met with Andrew, Sarah,
Okay,
was on this, but
So you guys are going through that process. I think we've been introduced to the project. You've seen the housing needs assessment and it wasn't perfect, but I think that should be a point of guidance.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How do you feel about, whether the current, legislation for construction litigation defect reform, construction defect, are you following that? Will that make a difference in your ability to create for sale housing if it should pass?
Yeah, so all the pro formas we've been running, you know, we have a plug for that,
Okay.
that builder.
I
Is it
can't remember
called
what it's
builder
called.
warranty? It's,
I think it's
yeah,
gonna take a bit of a time for the insurance industry to respond if that passes.
Yeah.
Huge capital IF.
yeah, but I mean.
I'm watching it
the-
pretty closely.
The number, all the opportunities and, in terms of the finances, it's not really, there's other ways to move the needle versus that. That's not
Okay,
it is a number.
so if it doesn't pass, it's not gonna hold you
No.
up, okay.
No,
That's why I asked the rental question.
right.
Yeah.
It's rental. It's not an issue.
So I know, we're at about our time limit.
Yeah.
And I don't know that this group knows if we need 2 bedrooms or 1 bedroom.
Right.
But that makes
We're like a
sense.
staff director.
Well, I mean, they have the same numbers we can access, but I think you're just kind of wanting to know, just overall, like the idea.
Yeah, is it something we should continue looking at? The
Yeah.
town, is it, I mean,
I think all the devil's in the details and like, yeah, just if you can make it financially work, I think this commission showed earlier that
Well,
we're in support of housing, particularly for
yeah,
our teachers and
Missing.
our future planner.
Who can't live here.
future planner.
Yeah.
I guess the reason I asked that is because we, you know, gentle densification and it's closer to Summit, yet not as spread out. You have 24 or 27 units. So is that too big? You know, is that beyond gentle?
You should go to the brewery and start asking people if they think of 24 units being built in town, you might get a better story.
Good point.
But we're gonna be in support of it, I think, as a commission, just casually, like my opinion personally. But the town always, you know, it's pretty split. Half the people seem to love it, and
Yeah.
half the people don't, so you're gonna have a line of people up at the door saying they don't want it, and a line of people matching that saying they do want it.
That's why I'm going through this process
Yeah.
and then, but I'll make a decision pretty quick.
Do you have a sense for what number of units you decide to just divide it and let people live on instead?
I'm sure there'll be pushback. I mean, there'd be rezoning right now, it's R2. So if I was to pursue the 5 units, that would be rezoning obviously, but I think for me, it's, I mean, to subdivide into 3 and retain 1 would probably be the best move. I've got interest from the 2 parties. This is a single family home, but as I said, having lived here and seen the demand, I thought we'd go down this path. But I'm not gonna wait a year, unfortunately.
Yeah. Just one quick question, it wasn't clear about from the site plans. I'm guessing there's a slope going uphill right next to.
Yeah, where
the
you
back of
see
these
where
buildings.
there's an absence of anything,
Yeah, it's a
unfortunately,
slope.
the cliff, yeah.
And then is your commercial building here in the floodway?
It's interesting because even the way I split it in my head, I'd probably even talk to Mike and even adjust my line a little further north because it's unusable for them, but it protect the wedding business a little bit. So
Yeah.
that's unusable. I always just split it between what would be the shed and the garage. And once you got rid of the garage and the houses, I could probably just shift it a little more, just a little more privacy for the business. But it's not usable anyway.
So there would be a property line somewhere in near the end of those blue
Yeah,
housing units.
yeah.
Okay.
It's just, as I said, it's just for a little more privacy.
That makes sense. I was just, there was not clear to me like the use of the land. and
It's a
I was
steep
just
cliff.
seeing The slope, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
steep cliff, and then the driveway obviously is not usable, but in total, I think it's close to like 1.78 acres. And when we take the driveway out, usable space is 1.4. And then we had the discussion through the whole easement thing back in the LLC discussion for the Lions property, and unfortunately, that does impact what we can do there because the easement actually comes through and along the side of the property, but I always looked at that as putting the parking lot to the front and having more of a walking community, which I think number one is that.
Number one seems to make more sense.
Yeah, we could,
Yeah, anyway.
I did like that idea.
I don't mean to drag you guys in the weeds. I was just trying to
Yeah,
understand the placement of stuff. I think, again, you're just getting personal opinions here, right, tonight, but I would imagine that this commission, if it's in its own form, will probably support some version of this put forward because of our need and our appetite for affordable housing or workforce housing. I think the next board up is a bit more political. Might be worth your time trying to gauge their interest.
Yeah,
Because we recommend to the board of trustees and they would allow something to go through.
they're gonna present at a workshop, on the 18th. To the board of trustees as well.
Yeah, but it seems great. I mean, we need all this if the town will allow that.
Something that,
Two more
like
comments and then we're moving on.
Otherwise, you won't get through your.
Okay, no, I agree with Neil and then our support of affordable housing. I think, you should know, I think when we just talked that triangle a lot. One of the reasons what municipals, Lions, I think is about 10% affordable housing units right now or something like that. Town of Erie is 1% or something like that. So there's some, granted, I know Lions is small, so it's easier with that, but I think that's one reason. I love this and I totally support it and I think we need it and if there's one place, but also it's why I'm also looking at other places like here. I love this here, but it's also why the triangle, I'd like to see something that might attract people to spend money and come to town for other ways and array sales tax revenues. I'm seeing the larger pictures where I'm going with it. So I just want to put out that all together for everyone. So.
Well, these people will buy things in the winter. That's also worth
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right, exactly right. Yeah.
And they'll be part of your workforce at the event center.
Yeah, that too. Oh, there's that too. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Right there, yeah.
Not everybody who buys a unit gets a golf cart.
Very good, Mike.
Let's see.
All right, well, thank you. for your time.
We'll see you on the 18th.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
all.
much.
Thank you, Melissa.
Do you wanna-
Thank you.
I can make
No,
copies here.
I'll say.
We'll
the-
send it out and, if you wanna forward on the website.
We'll
so-
put this in
ACDC meeting
their
with
packet.
review in a studio shed.
Yeah.
Backyard. Yeah.
Oh, good, yeah.
Studio show, oh, you mean the one on,
Yeah, what's the
Melissa,
street up
can you
there?
return?
oh,
the
on
Yes.
Stewart?
Oh, for.
Thank you.
Like the whole first floor.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, yeah, no, but he was talking about, anyway.
I heard it. Yeah. Nice to see you, Chris.
You too.
If we're not-
Thanks for the time, guys.
Bye, good night.
Advanced panels.
No, but it's,
That is what. we're analyzing. Anyway, all right, comp plan review.
Oh, boy.
there's panel, I think there, did they say that? I think there's this 40 units, at least that's what they drop in people's backyard studio shed.
That's what I was confused.
But I'm gonna go to pieces and it's all wrapped up and they would just ship the pieces and you build it on site, I think.
Use on the public, maybe,
I'm before there's like,
they do it too.
I can't see.
Cool.
So we had in our packet a memo that was dated October 4th. Is that correct?
October 4th?
Okay,
Oh, the memo.
yeah,
That was from Cassidy
yeah. And
and
then there was another attachment that just had,
this is it.
I think she sent it maybe as a PDF, not a
Yes.
spreadsheet, so we only got the
That makes more
first
sense.
page of it. Just as the attachment, the hyperlink. It was just like
Okay.
one page of that,
Well, if we decide, it's
just in
really,
case anyone else was confused.
yeah, so if, couple ways I think you can do this, because if you want to be done by 8 tonight, we could start through some of this and identifying, or if you would like to, those that have like lead as staff, I could ask Cassidy to start filling in updates on this for you. But because I wasn't working very closely with you this, this last year when Andrew was here. All we need is either the progress, or if there is none, that's okay too. If it's a priority, do you still want to have it in here as a goal?
A question about that. The comp plan says that the priorities on the implementation strategies were only filled out to be ongoing and near term because they wanted to leave longer term strategies up to the board of trustees to assign based on budgetary. So are we to just stay with that dual coding of ongoing and near term? Or do you want us to venture into long term potential coding of these?
I think it's however you want to define it. Everyone, different groups have kind of looked at these differently. But I think for you, it can be ongoing, short term, long term, whatever.
The reason I ask is it specifically says the board of trustees to assign longer term strategies.
Well, they will
They
by,
want us to.
they're prioritizing, every 2 years. And,
I guess my, sorry, just to clear, are we to translate the board of trustees priorities into our coding of these to be long-term on their behalf? Or do we just keep to the ongoing and near term as the comp plan says and let the board of trustees and staff assign longer term strategies?
I think it's the latter personally.
That's perfect.
But what do you think? How have other commissions and boards approached it?
they mostly had done it before you guys did your goal setting. So they were on the trajectory they've always been on.
Dual goals.
But now that you know that priority,
The goals are the same.
You
Like,
guys didn't have new goals.
we're talking about our priorities, the board priorities, they're the same 3 priorities they always have been. Since we were seated.
wildfire, infrastructure, housing.
We don't get any conversational sort of, fleshing out of those 3 goals or any sort of nuance around.
I had that at your last meeting. I turned out the 3, they had 3 or 4 in each category they wanted to get done in the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
If we're supposed to be
I think,
translating these other goals beyond those 3 into longer term strategies to modify them in this exercise.
I do think as we go through these, if there are goals here that fall in those priority areas, they would love to see you prioritize those.
I think that's fair to say.
I do too, yeah. So I don't know how you want to go through this. I don't know if you want to break it up. I don't know. You want staff to take a first at this, but we were really hoping, to finalize this at the end of January. Now we're in February, so we really do need to make this a
It's good that we
priority
get
this
to see it
coming
for
month.
the first time.
So, I think we would love staff help.
Okay,
I don't think anyone's gonna disagree with that. Are there some, I don't know if everyone had a chance to review these, but are there some that we have completed that we could just say are complete?
the only one that stood out to me were, Cassidy has done a good job on getting some processes in place. And, like the PUD process and the
Yeah,
PUD
19.
amendment. Mm-hmm.
LU-1E.
Yes, it would be, I'm looking at
That
it.
also might be a completed one. We also updated the housing needs assessment, I believe. That was number 31.
So I guess maybe the question is, where are we at with this with staff support? Is there, other than just setting the document up, is there any staff review yet? Or should we begin that today asking for it?
Begin today, if you guys haven't discussed it yet.
No, we talked about this process. We didn't get into it with Andrew before.
Yep.
So I think you're the chair, but maybe we just ask staff to give a cursory review so that we can discuss things and then.
I think that would be helpful because there's some things I have no idea about, to be quite honest, about in terms of the status.
Otherwise, we'll do what we had done in the past with like the comp plan where we just go through line by line by line. And we'll be here till 10.
Yeah.
Mhm. And then maybe what we could do is identify which of these goals fall under the priorities of the board, current
Mhm.
seated board, that we might want to focus on this in 2025.
That would be fantastic. We can cross-reference that with some of the priority lists we've already made, and I think that'll give us that whole consolidated process will give us good direction.
Yeah, Chris had quite a few. The other
There's a
option is.
lot.
No,
that
there's a
needs
lot.
to be seen, like 5 that don't.
But a lot to staff too.
One of my questions is gonna be, if we're a partner in this and not a lead, do
Yes.
we follow do we review it as a partner during the consolidation?
Yes,
And
you're going to get the entire document back. So we've been gathering them from all the boards and commissions, and then you're going to get that feedback back. I believe that the code says you just are to review it. I mean, you're just
Right.
to look at it and review it. And if there's anything that's glaring, if kind of the year of the flood. Once the flood happened, it was kind of like, none of these are important anymore, or at least they're on hold. I shouldn't say that, they're on hold.
Right.
And we adopted this recovery action plan that was supposed to take us the next 4 years. And then this comes back. So you're just to be reviewing it annually to make sure there's nothing glaring that you're missing, that you should be focused on. There's nothing unusual, or somebody's not out working on something that's not a priority, kind of a glance at that. One other way you could do this is pair up, and a couple of you take the ED section, a couple of you take the land use section. That's another way you can think about it. But if you want to, we can have staff take the first round of things that we have or that we know about from other groups. Because we're a little more, we have a little broader knowledge of what other groups are working on. Maybe what I could do is have Cassidy take this and lightly shade anything that's a board priority. Would that be helpful? And then, if you guys know there's just been no work on something, just note it. And we start there. Anybody else have ideas?
I know in previous years, DCDC had established at the beginning of the year the desire to refresh our knowledge and memory and perspective on all of the sections of the comp plan. So the comp plan would be an active thing for, for our decision-making processes.
Good idea.
And to me, this would be a really good way of refamiliarizing with the comp plan in total. So going through all of them, maybe focusing a little more on the shaded ones that are the higher priority, but at least looking through all of them and having an awareness of what the comp plan is saying about them, I think would be beneficial for us just in terms of our ability to make decisions.
How about if we plan on 2-hour get-togethers? That's a lot in a month, 4 hours. But whatever meeting we don't have, we spend either up to an hour and a half or 2, then getting through these. And then you're going to be getting the whole bag back. So it's going to take some time. And I agree with you. It's good to do it at the beginning of the year or at end December to refresh you for the new year. But
So you're suggesting our meetings that are coming up already set second and fourth Monday meetings when we have time available to then focus on it at that time?
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, during those times. So whatever, like tonight, once we get through meeting items, whatever's left up to that 8 o'clock mark or 7:30 or whatever you guys decide we spend on getting through this comp plan.
In 2 weeks.
Unless you want a separate all-day workshop on a Saturday or something.
Let's do both Saturday and Sunday.
Today, the 10th. Is it then the 24th is our next meeting? It's a workshop. So we're kind of doing the meetings the first Monday, and
The public hearing to me, or the?
Yeah,
For when you have a workshop versus a meeting?
Yeah.
It just will depend, like if these guys come forward with a proposal,
what do you think, Bill?
you might have more like we did tonight, like a half an hour of meeting, cause now you're getting in the groove. You know, if you could get if there's like a half an hour or something of, your next meeting, you're gonna have that resolution public hearing.
Oh, yeah.
But you might, if that's an hour, then maybe you'll have an hour to work on this.
Okay,
But staff, I mean, we can help on this side as much as is helpful. Unless, I keep hearing from developers and other folks that it just is glacial movement on, you know, their developments. And
Yeah.
so I don't want to wait till just one of the other meetings
I understand, I
to
agree.
take their action. You
For
want to,
sure.
yeah, as soon as we can with the timeframes.
Is there, I'm just gonna ask you directly, is there some concern that because of Andrew being gone, that we don't have the institutional knowledge for, say, Cassidy to go through this and make those recommendations to change certain things? Or is that,
I don't think she has the knowledge.
so I guess my question is, should we be taking the lead instead of asking staff to take the lead? Is that, do you want to reconsider that offer?
No, I'm okay. She's an awesome helper. So I mean, she can go through this list and at least identify what falls under the board's items. That's fine. That'll be okay. She's also she's pretty good with spreadsheets and stuff, so she can do that fairly quickly. But I think the next step will have to be you guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, maybe we can all dedicate some individual work time. It would be helpful if we had the spreadsheet instead of the,
Okay. This one that's up right now.
Yeah. we have-
in
yeah.
Excel, so that we can
Okay,
each put in what we know about,
sure.
whatever, however many items we know.
Can we make it a Google Drive document?
Well, the town is in Microsoft. It might be tricky.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
yeah, the attorney doesn't let us
that
work
mean?
Google unless only one. It all goes to
me.
But you have access to Microsoft Suite through your Town Alliance 365 Office, whatever you can call it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
should be able to use it, but
Yeah.
you have to sign in to office.com with your credentials. And then you-
So you're thinking about splitting these up? Just for our next meeting so that we can make some progress?
I guess what I was proposing is that we
Oh, how come
each
that's not scanned?
look through the list of 41
It's
items.
not that.
Should we play a relay? Or you like have one day to look at it and add your edits and forward towards the next person? Or-
I mean, I'm trying to be honest, I look at this, and I have no
Can't all work
idea.
together.
Yeah.
Like, I have no clue where to even, like, I mean, maybe it's partly because I'm so new, but.
Well, and if I might, I think staff has like the widest view of what has, the work that has been done so far on all of these items. And just by virtue of, you know, Victoria being involved in literally everything that goes on. She knows where each item is, and so I think that might be a better starting point than you all having to guess.
I think Andrew would have taken a first shot for you.
Yeah.
Okay,
I do.
And I'm like, I don't even know.
Yeah,
what
again,
to do.
Because I
Yeah.
can understand, you guys, if you haven't addressed it, you aren't even gonna know. You know, I mean, if you haven't,
So these, just for context, I mean, a few of us were here when the comp plan
Yeah.
happened too, like
you guys.
these
can-
implementation strategies were more or less kind of devised by our consultant based on a lot of the goals that we came up with and the conversation around those goals. And the temperature and all the rooms that they helped us in. So we didn't necessarily draft these. The town has them available and we are responsible for codifying them as a priority or not. But the stakes are pretty low here, other than the fact that we just have to update this thing because it's codified into our municipal code. So really, we go through it, we have eyes on it. If we don't understand something because we weren't here for that part or it doesn't make sense to us when
Unknown.
it's fine. We don't have to touch
Okay.
anything.
Yeah.
In fact, it would be great if all of these were relevant and we didn't touch any of them. That would be ideal.
Mm-hmm.
But chances are there's probably some that need to be updated. There might be something missing that wasn't a priority 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I just want to take it off your guys' kind of like anxiety list, like.
Okay, so it's less us knowing what has been done,
Yeah,
and
it
is this
Yeah.
something we still want to be doing and moving towards and.
Yeah, and
That's
as Barney pointed out, it's good good for us to stay,
Mhm.
you know, up to
Yeah.
date on what these priorities were. And maybe we don't agree with some of them anymore. Maybe one of them really, you know, rubs you the wrong way and you're new to the commission, and bring that up because now you're part of this commission and it's our confidence.
Or if there's one here that you really think could help us make some progress in
Yeah.
those other areas, you know, like, I don't know how many times this has been on the list. Inventory and owned real estate. There's a spreadsheet that's been,
Yeah,
it's out there, it's been out there for a long time.
there's like 80 different little, or.
Yeah, they're all little tiny things, but basically that's been done, but
All
maybe we
that.
could take it to the next step. This is, are any of these able to have a better use? And try to make a little progress there.
That's a helpful example. Yeah, and some of these just feel like they're just ongoing and good.
Yeah.
They're just gonna be what the PCDC does for years and years.
That's why they would put
Yeah.
ongoing.
Barriers.
Yep.
Yeah.
They are our arrows in our quiver, right? If something were to
Yeah.
come up that we would support as a commission, or you would support as an individual in this commission, you might want something worded a certain way because it aligns with where you see our priorities going, but like that's 3D chess, and I don't know if we really have to be doing that. But, you know, if like you're really interested in affordable housing and that's a huge priority for you personally, there's a lot in here on that, but it could be worded more strongly. There might be something specifically missing that when you read through it, you're like, man, I wish we had this in here, like we can add that. But we don't have to do anything, we just have to review it.
Just review it.
It's not a test, you're not thinking.
No, unless we, I don't want to come in with a pop quiz.
Okay, so for our next workshop on this,
Ever.
the goal will be to bring back one that at least is lightly shaded to show what the board's priorities are. And any updates that me or Cassidy know offhand will.
That sounds fantastic.
Okay.
I think just each of us reading them all, and if there's like just question mark, exclamation point, happy face, sad face, like whatever, like things,
Yeah.
just so
Like-
in our own minds, we're more familiar with it all.
That's great. Okay,
And I think there are a couple things we can check off, which is so satisfying.
I know there's nothing out there, to mark something off the list.
Right.
We're down to 10.
well, I do want to, because we have just a couple minutes, you guys. I came across this last week. And it is the 1985 comp plan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to do one of those with Dr. Cog with their, I used to do the travel, when they did their plan and the regional plan update in 2000, someone brought in something from 1960
That is-
about the projections of what, how,
Yeah.
like,
So
it was crazy.
1985, 40 years ago. I cannot tell you, I could hand you this document and we could adopt it again.
Okay,
The
oh,
things they wanted
That's
40 years
amazing.
ago are still
Really?
the same things people want now.
Oh.
The one thing that stood out to me that has changed dramatically is probably the data on home ownership. In 1985, 89% of the people owned their own home.
Oh, wow.
They owned the home they lived in Lyons.
And now it's closer to half.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I haven't heard a really recent number, but my guess is
Yeah.
at least 60%. Yeah,
Oh.
that's changed pretty dramatically, but so interesting that it's okay to grow a little bit, but not too much. And the majority were 3,000 people would be okay, right? We want our parks to have nice amenities and be clean,
Oh.
but, and they want us to clean up downtown.
Mm.
Which-
economic development, what was?
We've done a lot of that. Parking, some people think it's a problem, but it really isn't. That's in here. It is amazing.
Wow.
So if any of you want to check this out, this is from, Permanent Records. We need more recreational activities for the kids.
Do they want a rec center?
It-
Pool. Swimming pool.
Yeah, right.
But
of course.
it is pretty amazing.
Wow.
What do you love about Lions? What should we change? What should we not?
Is music a thing then?
Music wasn't quite as big, but at this time it was more, local festivals.
Mhm.
So
in
it's
the
40
middle
days. That was 40 years ago. Okay, because Pineapple Grass, the Rocky Mountain Grass has probably been around. Did they just have their 50th? That was Telluride that had their 50th. Who had their 50th recently?
I think it was Rocky Grass.
It was
That would
Rocky
be-
Grass.
That's a
Okay.
great example, Victoria, something that we should digitize.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is that the number of people commuting out of town to work is about the same. And so it was really interesting, to look 40 years later and we're still striving for pretty much the
Well, we
same,
can just keep the comp plan.
same
not
kinds
make
of
another one.
use.
Because
Yeah,
not the one
I
from
think they all
1980.
so much better.
No, because the 3,000
really
people is
simple. It's not
probably
very
the,
big.
Doesn't change that much, does it?
They
Really?
did the
For us?
Cheaper.
Really?
Cheaper.
It would be smaller than what they wanted.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 3,000 would be bigger. than
Yeah, so the planning policies at the time, new development should be encouraged to pay its own way, right?
Love that.
Town should maintain a small town atmosphere while encouraging growth. Minimal growth that will support a diversity of employment, retail, recreational, and community activities. It should occur in logical phases. The area with highest priority for development should be those that have the least natural or physical constraints and can be served by existing utilities. Must be contiguous to avoid scattered development. And then it's kind of, stay away from floodways. It's amazing when you read it, it's almost identical. Land use policies that, protect the environment. And coordinate with other planning jurisdictions such as Boulder and Longmont. Yeah.
Who's Reagan was president?
Yeah, 85, yeah.
Yeah.
It was 80 to 88.
The pendulum, in our political system, so we might actually be in a similar kind of conservative swinging.
I'll get this, you
direction
guys.
as we were in '85.
New commercial development should be encouraged that provides goods and services such as a grocery store, drugstores, clothing stores, and medical offices.
Oh
I know, it's pretty amazing.
Well, no, this is just all basic living stuff. I mean, and
The needs.
they had you doctors back then, you need doctors now.
Yeah,
You
let's
need
see
a
what
place to buy food.
Dog parks and.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd all want a place to take our
Yeah,
kids
have
to, like,
the house,
middle
dog
finger then,
park
right?
In the world.
Let's say about dog parks and laundromats.
I know.
Yes.
What was it, the open markets that we
Yeah.
spent so much time on?
Farmers.
Parks.
Yep, and that we need to focus on improving our streets. So
Great.
if they just weren't paved yet, they were all gravel at this.
Yeah.
Were they, oh,
Yeah.
So clean up downtown was like.
we didn't have like,
paved.
like Horizon Drive. Yeah,
No,
that existed, right, yeah.
No.
exactly.
No, this was right at the beginning, then the boom started in
Okay.
about, when was Eagle Canyon?
96.
Okay, late 90s.
Mid-90s. So
Okay.
this was before the big boom, but yeah, I was like, this is like almost really.
Yeah.
40 years, so we have done an excellent job maintaining our small town character.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did have,
Oh,
something I wanted to say. I do plan to withdraw from the DCGC. But I'm totally willing to stay on until somebody else is
replaced.
recruited.
Oh, thank you, Barney.
Thank you,
However long that takes.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
And then we're gonna, try to recruit you for the Board of Adjustments.
They only meet once
They
every
meet
6
once every 24.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a good gig, right?
They're gonna meet twice in, or we have two in February.
I'm getting this.
But yeah, so, thank you, we appreciate that. So if any of you know of, folks that might have the time and energy and interest,
Send them our way.
serve on the planning commission, yeah, let the mayor know or send them to me or the